Welcome to Muscular Minds Podcast, where we want to build mental toughness and resilience for you, your family, your faith, and your future. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, welcome into Muscular Minds. This is your host, Jared Dane. We are excited you're here with us. As always, you can check us out at muscularminds.com or go to YouTube to find us there as well. Tonight, we are excited because we're going to talk about how to get mentally fit and resilient, but we're going to do it with someone who this is what they do all day long. And I've got Sara Smith with me, and she has graduate degrees, and she's in physiology and kinesiology. And so I'm excited to have her with us tonight to teach us some of what she knows and why she is able to do and be so successful at what she does. So, Sara, welcome to the program. Good to have you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about what I do. So, I'm a clinical exercise physiologist and I serve patients in both cardiac and pulmonary rehab. So, I work with a lot of patients who have not one, not two, but many chronic illnesses. So, our role in this field is to try to help them overcome their diagnoses, their cardiac events, whether it's heart attack, open heart surgery, or maybe it's just struggling with lung disease for years. And so our goal is to try to get them healthier and stronger and give them a better quality of life. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. I'm really, really passionate about what I do.
Sounds like you're going to be perfect for us to talk to because those helping people through those things sounds really challenging. And those are a lot of things that can be difficult to overcome from a health wise. What made you passionate about working with this population and doing what you do?
Yeah, great question. So I originally set out to go into PT, go to PT school. Bachelor's of Kines was kind of the route at the time for me. And then as I got further into my undergrad degree, I just started questioning, do I want to go to school forever and ever? Do I want to do PT? And so I actually asked one of my professors that I deeply respect. I was like, what else can I do with a bachelor's of kinesiology? I have no idea the options. I want to do more, something health related. And he was like, well, you're going to hate it, but you could do cardiac rehab. So I kind of took that as a challenge, like, okay, I might not hate this. Like, you don't speak for me necessarily. So let me give it a shot. So I pursued an internship at the time and I just fell in love with the patient population. Older folks are just, to me, they're so sweet. And when I see them have this drive to better themselves and to improve their quality of life, like it is truly so special to get to walk that journey with them. And so that's what kind of started me out. It was kind of a rocky journey to get back into the field. After that internship, I graduated right when COVID happened. So then all of the hospitals shut down. There was no hiring, especially for exercise physiologists. Kind of a field that's not as maybe well known, or there's not as many opportunities just because primarily people are going to hire nurses for different tasks, which is wonderful. But we have a little bit of a different kind of skill set. And so it's really difficult to break into the field. You have to be extremely dedicated to learning, on your own and learning more, gaining certifications, maybe getting a higher degree, which is what I ended up having to do. Um, but all that to say, 3 years ago, finally started working in a clinic, and the patient population is what made me stick around, watching them fight through their own chronic illnesses and come back from literally, I've worked with patients day one after a heart surgery, like open heart surgery. I worked with them day one and I walked them all the way through their rehab to where they're running on a treadmill now. And it's incredible to see. And that's what kept me around in the field. So turns out it was not boring, at least not for me.
That sounds amazing. I really appreciate the fact that you're passionate about a population that maybe not everybody would be passionate about working with. One of the things that I really heard that I kind of want to get your opinion about because I'm thinking Okay, as we age and like obviously we're not designed to live forever, so our bodies start to break down. And specifically, I'm hearing you're dealing with a lot of people that are going through heart things. And so those of us like that are younger or want to be fit and resilient as we age, do you have like an ingredient? Hey, do this, don't do that. What's something that we should really be paying attention to that will help us as we age so we can live stronger, fitter lives?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I guess the biggest piece that I would recommend is honestly the old adage, move it or lose it. So get moving, whatever that looks like for you. Not everyone is going to run a marathon and not everyone is going to get up from the couch and start running, right? But I believe the current recommendation from the American Heart Association is at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise each week. So, I mean, that might look like for some a 10-minute walk at a time, and that's okay. Some for others that they might be able to do 60 minutes of a walk at a time, and that's okay. That's great. But start where you're at. Start with what you're able to do and constantly build up from there. So, adding in strength training to strengthen your bones, strengthen your muscles, help prevent falls. Especially as we age, falling becomes a concern. So you want to really provide yourself a good base of support to help kind of prevent the age related things that are going to happen. But start where you are and move it or lose it. Just get moving. Even something as simple as walking is so good for your cardiovascular health, your pulmonary health. Yeah, that would be my first tip for sure.
That's really insightful. And I know that we talk about, hey, being more active, but many of us that live, especially in the United States, we a lot of times are a little more sedentary. We drive our cars to work, we sit at work, we drive our cars to maybe our kids' games or our own activities, and we do more sitting or we're watching television. So there's
Hmm.
sometimes not as many activity opportunities to be active, but it sounds like that's a really key ingredient to age well and to continue to have the quality of life that I might want. Am I understanding that correctly?
But yeah, yeah, you're spot on for sure. Sedentary lifestyle is a huge risk factor for, a lot of problems you would want to prevent in the future. So, and especially, I mean, I work from home now, so it's even difficult for me because I want to make sure I'm getting up and I'm moving each hour, or I'm taking a walk at my lunch break, or after work is over. Just reminding yourself, getting in the habit of it too, because you're right, as kind of a culture and a nation, we are very sedentary, turns out, and just getting like over that mindset of, oh, I'll just relax, like, oh, I'll just kind of take it easy. Like long term, you're going to want to kind of curb that habit and start incorporating more activity, especially throughout the day.
I want to kind of transition into like usually what we talk about here, and that is our mindset and being resilient and confident as we kind of work through sometimes difficult things or hard things. And I can't think of many things more difficult than recovering from a heart condition or, a disease that I'm trying to overcome. And so as you work with people, how do you navigate and motivate someone who's like really maybe in a difficult place, feeling like maybe it's even end of life, hey, I can't make it back, I can't recover. They're really down on themselves. How are you helping people get through those things?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And I will say it is very difficult. It can weigh pretty heavy on exercise physiologists because we're trying to kind of walk them through it, right? We're trying to almost hold their hand through these really hard things. And so the biggest thing that I can tell them when they are sharing how difficult it is and sharing like, well, I have all these things, I have all these doctor's appointments. My husband or my wife, my spouse is also going through the same thing. And so, I mean, sometimes they don't have a strong support system. So they really rely on us in cardiac and pulmonary rehab because we're their clinician, right? So we're going to be the same person that's showing up for them 2 or 3 times every single week, listening to them with their updates, how they're feeling. And so the thing I keep going back to is like celebrating celebrating your wins no matter how big they are. So, for instance, a lot of like pulmonary patients struggle to even like walk to the mailbox. So if they come on session and they say, I did it this time, I made it there and back, I didn't have to take any breaks, that's a win. And for us, we're younger, that may be like, okay, that's not hard for us, but it is extremely difficult for someone who is struggling so much with their health. And so we celebrate that, we hype them up, because then the next week they might say, "Hey, I actually ran to the grocery store, got some milk. I felt great, and I'm not wiped for the rest of the day." And then we build on that. So maybe then it's, "Hey, I walked a quarter mile." Hey, then it's, "I got to go to my," one I hear a lot is like, "I got to go to my grandchild's football game, and I walked up the bleachers and I was okay." So celebrating the wins and really, like, hitting home, "I recognize this is hard for you. Look at what you've done and look how far you've come." So that's the first thing, and then I also try to really remind them that change is not overnight, especially when they start their rehab journey. They're like, "Well, I don't feel any better yet," or, "Man, I'm still so short of breath," or, "I can't do the things yet." And so just reminding them, "Hey, be patient with yourself too, because it's not gonna happen immediately. It's gonna take time, and if you'll just trust me and let me be here with you in this hard time, I'm gonna try to help walk you out of it." So, probably those 2 things, celebrating the wins, no matter how big or small, and just reminding them to be patient because it is a journey that is not over very quickly.
I think some of the things that I've heard that I thought were tremendous is just you're trying to get excited, almost cheerleading and encouraging them over
Mhm,
every small milestone. And I think sometimes we may feel that that's silly. Hey, that person should do this. But like that encouragement, it sounds like really gives that person the energy, the motivation to keep trying to move forward because the desire to quit may be really strong or the desire to give up and just accept your situation or maybe even your disability is, and we don't want to keep pushing ourselves and make and because it's
mhm,
hard. And so I think I heard that of just lots of encouragement. And the other thing is just being present with someone
mhm,
on their journey of recovery. And that's that consistency, that showing up and being there for someone when they're struggling. And I can appreciate that, as a mental health clinician, as someone who works with people, it's a journey to see someone's behavior change, whether that's working through whatever situation they may be facing. And so I can relate to just trying to be present with folks. And I think the encouragement is powerful. I don't think we do that probably enough with folks. It's easy to tear down, right? It's harder to
mhm,
encourage. And so I really heard
mhm.
that that was an important part of what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, we even try to, especially when I was in clinic, like, it's kind of a little community. Like, the same patients are coming every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, whatever their schedule looks like, and they know who's showing up, and they know their team is there for them. And so building that community of support is huge, because, when you deal with these chronic illnesses, it is extremely isolating. That's one thing I hear over and over is it's so isolating. They feel like no one else is feeling that. They feel like no one else is encountering what they are. And so when you're able to stop and listen and you're able to just really build them up and provide them a community, provide them a system of support, it just works wonders and it really aids in their recovery for sure.
Something else I'm hearing that it just occurred to me is community. Like, hey, who's your village? Who are your people? And that we're not isolated. We're not going to do this alone. That we need support. And so I get that. So from where I'm sitting when I work with people, yeah, I asked that question, who do you have support? Or if you're recovering from an addiction, maybe you're going to meetings or maybe you're coming in to get support because it's too hard to do by yourself. And so I think it takes an extraordinary individual if they were isolated for very long to be able to do it on their own. But
Mhm,
I think most of us aren't built that way. So I think that's really good. I hadn't really thought about the isolation piece, but that's real. And I think if anything, that would probably hold a lot of people back more than anything, just the isolation of it all.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. And, it translates to even if, like, I mean, I've learned that myself. Like, I'm not struggling the way that my patients are, but watching them, hearing their stories, like, that makes me want to, okay, I need to build a community of support for myself, for my husband, for my family. Just so, you want to be ready for anything that happens and you want to have that community around you. So it's not just for those, like you're saying, it's not just for those who are chronically ill. It's everyone. In order to kind of be successful, you need to have that community, whatever that may look like, church, school, work, whatever that is. Community is so, so important.
And I think we learned through COVID that isolation isn't good for anybody. A lot of people came out of that with a lot of struggles, kids and adults. But maybe I think we've forgotten to combat that. I have to put people around me. I have to have
Mhm,
people I can be plugged into, relationships. And I think
mhm.
we struggle to sometimes bounce back from that. But I think even more so, you put in an illness or a heart situation. Now I may be really isolated and feeling alone. So I
Mhm.
think it's tremendous that y'all are there, just kind of pushing and encouraging. Can you give an example of maybe an exercise that you might be encouraging a patient that might be chronically mental or ill to do?
Yeah, so one of the ones that's funny enough, probably the trickiest that we do celebrate so heavily in our work in our field of what we do is just a basic sit to stand. So for maybe younger people like us, we would consider it kind of a modified squat, but it is, having if you can't breathe, if you're short of breath, even just going from sitting to standing is very difficult. And so we do one of a classic kind of ability tests or kind of functional tests is just a sit to stand test, see how many they can complete in a certain amount of time. And so they're just going from sitting to standing, sitting to standing. And then we incorporate that kind of based on where they landed, on the test. We incorporate that into future sessions. And usually, most programs will do an exit test as well when they finish. And you're able to say, hey, remember when you could only do two and then you were wiped and you couldn't do it anymore? And how many times we made you do it and you hated it? Now you're doing 20 in a row and you're feeling great. And so it sounds so simple, but genuinely it is so difficult because if you're sustaining muscular endurance, cardio continuously for kind of a difficult move, especially for the population we serve. So we definitely incorporate that one, and it always gives us a chuckle because they hate it so much and they laugh, but they eventually work their way up to it.
I think it's really interesting that you would point to that exercise because I talked to a trainer the other day, and that was the one thing that he kind of pointed to is kind of like the
Mm,
sit and stand and the squatting is a really important thing as we age or as we just are
mhm,
strong. Like what kind of muscles are letting us do that particular exercise. So
mhm,
I think it's interesting you picked that one as the kind of the one thing is it's an important measurement for people.
mhm. Yeah, for sure.
So, Sarah, I wanted to ask you too, do you have one thing that when you approach a patient that's like is building rapport with them? I mean, how does that work from your field to a patient? I know what it looks like with for other people, but how do you build rapport with somebody who's just kind of maybe coming out of open heart surgery and needs to try to get on track really quickly? How does that work?
Yeah, so most programs will typically do like an intake and and we'll sit and kind of just see where they're at. Okay, what are you here for? What kind of factors play into how you got here? So especially when I was in like working in the hospital and I did see them from start to finish, from surgery to end of rehab. We look at all the factors. How's your diet? How's your nutrition? How's your emotional support? How's your stress level? We look at it clinically like that too. But the wonderful thing about cardiac and pulmonary rehab is it's individualized. So rather than make every single patient do the exact same thing, we want to meet the patient where they are. And we want to say, okay, what are your specific goals? What can I do to help you get there? And let's make a plan that works for you. So I'm not putting a cutie 80-year-old lady running on a treadmill day one. I'm not doing that. I'm going to figure out what she feels comfortable doing. I'm going to figure out what she wants to do because maybe she has the ability to do 6 or 7 different little machines or whatever, but she doesn't like them. So I'm not going to make her do those. So if we start there with, you know, let me help you get where you're going, try to establish that trust, try to establish the that we're both trying to work towards the same thing, that just goes miles. And so, yes, we kind of look at it clinically. We have to, obviously, but the emotional kind of aspect of, look, I want what you want, and I want you to do the things that you haven't been able to do, and let's get there together. So that's kind of how I approach it, and how I would say the majority, if not all, CEPs try to approach it.
So there's like a kind of individualized plan for folks, but it's also kind of a partnership. Hey, Let's figure this out together. Let's pick a goal that we're going to move towards and work on
Mhm.
that together. So I like that. How how much of the mental resilience in your patients plays a part in their recovery? I mean, how do you see that kind of come forward or not? Maybe it doesn't come forward and they struggle. So how do you see that play out with your patient population?
Yeah, so there's definitely a difference. You can tell when someone really buys in and someone wants to get stronger. They want, they're very motivated. They're very, aware of how hard it's going to be. And then it is tricky because there are patients who feel it very heavily, and maybe they've struggled for longer. Maybe they have lost a little bit of hope. And so, I will say, I mean, it's easier to treat the patient, right? Who's got it, they're ready and they're encouraged. But the challenge of trying to instill that resiliency, I think is a piece I'm really passionate about because, everyone's different and everyone isn't gonna have that innate resiliency. And I think that's just why it's so important to establish the trust from the beginning and honestly, kind of to meet them where they are in that just acknowledging that it's hard. And I've found that just that piece, like, I don't ever wanna sugarcoat it to them and say, "Oh, well, you'll be okay. Keep your chin up." Like, I wanna tell them, "I know it's hard, and I know what you're experiencing is difficult, and I'm really sorry that it's difficult for you, and from there, let's see what we can do to even minimally, day by day, make it better." So, I think it first starts by acknowledging that it's not gonna be perfect, it's not gonna be easy from the beginning, and once they hear that you're not trying to brush it over, you're not trying to just mark them down as they came today, they exercised today, great, let's see them when we see them. But like making it that personal aspect of get you struggled just from the parking lot to come in today, and I'm proud of you for that. And so once they hear it enough times from you and you genuinely celebrate them, they're going to start celebrating themselves as well.
I hadn't really even considered the we have to instill resilience in some people. And
Hmm.
I do think that's right. I think sometimes I feel like, well, maybe it's already there, or we just have to work with it or restore it. But you're talking
Hmm.
about like sometimes we've got to put it in somebody so that they can do this hard thing that's in front of them. And especially
Hmm.
when they were doing a recovery from a major operation or something like that, that's an incredibly big challenge, I would say. That's really impressive that y'all are able to do that. Now, what percentage of patients do you feel like you have to usually do that with? To like put that inside of them, and others that may just automatically have that? What percentage usually need that motivation?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify it like an exact number. If I had to ballpark, maybe 2 or 3 out of every 10, I might need like a deep dive. Let's instill this resiliency. I think it's a very high percentage that need reminders because even if they start out with a base of, okay, I think I've got this, I think I've got the confidence to do it, I would say almost every single patient needs the reminder to press on. But as far as like those who have a baseline of probably next to no resiliency, it is on the lower side, but definitely not a rare occurrence. So we have to remind probably every patient, hey, I know yesterday was hard. You did it though. Let's keep going. Whereas some do take quite a bit more time to build that trust and resiliency between clinician and patient for sure.
I think I really appreciate the fact that that is something that I can put inside myself if I feel like I don't have that
Hmm.
quality. I can put resilience in myself.
Hmm.
I can build it. I can make myself stronger in the same way that, hey, maybe I'm not running a marathon today, but maybe one day that might be a realistic goal for
Hmm.
me as we take
Hmm.
small steps towards something that's bigger than ourselves. So I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, of course.
Sarah, do you have, as we kind of like come to the conclusion here, do you have specific like words of wisdom or, hey, this is something that people really need to know that, any encouragement that you have regarding kind of your professional advice or suggestions as we try to become more resilient and fit as we go through hard things? What's your thought?
I think just remembering that you can always start on another day. You're never too far gone. to try something difficult or try something new, especially when it comes to like lifestyle modifications, improving your diet, improving your hydration, improving your exercise level, you can always start. You're never too late. You're never too old, too young. You can always take that first step to get going on, a journey to improve your quality of life. And don't wait. I think that would be the bigger thing too, is I think potentially a lot of people my age, they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about that till, later on, till I'm 50, 60, 70s. Don't wait. Just start prioritizing your health now, and it's never too late to take that first step. So keeping that in mind should help you refresh, restart, and get on track.
Appreciate that. Sara, so what I'm hearing is that we really, it's never too late. We can always start. And even if the road is hard, we can do it. We just sometimes need those around us cheering us on and encouraging ourselves and other people. So I like that. Sara, I appreciate you hopping on with us tonight on Muscular Minds. And we look forward to maybe having you back another time. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining Muscular Minds today, where strength isn't measured by how much you lift, but who you lift up. And that starts with you.